folks, how are you doing? And welcome to another Natter. So this one we are going historical and we are going royal. And it all started with Gary and a book that he was reading the same time I was reading. You know, I did the book vlog, the Anne Boleyn book vlog, and I didn't have any idea what you were reading, did I?
No.
It was just by pure, what are you reading, Gary? And I was like, ooh. So he's going to show you the book.
Yeah, so it's like a compilation of books, not compilation books. It's like Jack Reacher. So it's like following the story of a guy, and he's like Jack Reacher, but he's an ex-SES man. The author's called Scott Mirani, and it's Tudor Deception was the name of the book. I don't know if you can see that properly. And so basically the story was that there were some people getting killed and getting knocked off in the book, and somebody came to get the heroes help, and the story was, I think, that the guy that wanted help was a descendant of Richard the Fourth.
Yes.
Richard the Fourth, who would have been one of the younger brother of the two boys in the tower, and that he didn't die in the tower, and he was shepherded off in back to France, where he lived a life. In the book that I read, the story was the older brother died of a disease or a malnutrition or a disease, I think it was, and it was the younger brother who actually tried to usurp, I think, Henry the Fifth.
Henry the Seventh.
Henry the Seventh. I'm rubbish with my kings. And there's comparing evidence for that. Some of it is made up in the book. I've got to admit.
They always have a dabble.
Yeah, they always have a dabble.
They always
in the book.
play with it.
And it made up that certain things happened that may have not happened. For example, Henry the Seventh's wife was Richard the Third. No, not Richard the Third's sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, niece.
Niece, yes. So he'd have been.
He would have been the sister of Rich. She would have been the sister of Richard the Fourth.
Yeah, the two boys in the tower. She was the sister of the two boys in the tower, and so the idea was that she could recognise him and would have recognised him, and that he had certain facial recognition. So anyway, this is all interesting, and I told Claire this because I knew she was interested in Richard III, and she said, "Oh, that's all very interesting." There's a Philippa Langley, who is the lady who actually found the body of Richard III in a car park in Leicester.
Which we've been to.
Yep. We've been to see his body. It was in Leicester, isn't it? Yeah.
It's Leicester Cathedral.
Yeah. I digress. I forgot, I've lost the train of thought now.
And I said we should watch this because I'd been meaning to watch it anyway, and I said, we could watch it and then do a natter, because I think it's always been a subject that is so debated, isn't it?
We love his crime thrillers, don't we? We love a bit of era. So we're doing a bit of era on this one.
And even now, even though we've watched it, you still have your doubts. But I remember, I can't remember which one it was and who wrote it, but years ago I read a historical fiction. It was about Perkin Warbeck. And I remember just reading it thinking, that's one of them. It just felt. And I know you can't base things on I just felt, but I just felt something that was maybe true. But also as well, watching that documentary, you could kind of see how it could have been manipulated by both sides, because back then they wouldn't have had cameras like we have now and social media. You know, it's like seeing Prince George now and then not seeing him for 7 years, but we've still got a photography. They didn't have that. They just had portraits, which were also manipulated. Yeah,
and the premise that history is written by the winners, which generally it is. But then my thought of this is that people that really like a hero try to rewrite history in that hero's fashion as well. So Richard III has turned up in a car park. We've got a lot of these Richard III followers out there who love Richard III, who didn't say he said he was a straight-backed individual, and he wasn't. He had an arched back. He had an arched back, so that is true.
Curvature of the spine, Gary.
Yeah, a curvature. But he did.
Arched back.
He had an arched back, and they all said, "Well, how could he ride a horse if he had this disfigurement?" And he did. He was a very, as history says, he was a very good soldier, and he did ride about on a horse. So he must have been able to, even with this disfigurement, as it were. So there's two parts in my eyes. Is yes, history is written by the winners, but sometimes when people put somebody on too high a pedestal, they try to rewrite, and you might find bits of evidence in all around history, and you try and rewrite the narrative to meet that evidence. And I was a bit unsure about the evidence. I think it's real. But it could still tell a tale that they were usurpers and they weren't actually the two princes. In theory, you could put that narrative to those pieces of evidence as well, because I think the documentary said that they weren't forgeries; they were done at the time. But if you're trying to put forward that this guy is Richard IV, and you want to get a lot of people behind you, you might put some fake evidence out there to try and prove your point. And a lot of those pieces of evidence, well, there's 3 pieces of evidence, I think, for Richard IV in the documentary. All of those could have been written as this is the guy, so everybody get on the back of this, and we'll get this crown, and we'll have a King of England again and get rid of the Tudors, or Tudor at the time.
Because there are many similar stories about swapping, and lots of them, whether they're true, whether they're not, similar stories about similar situations. But I've just remembered, and if you're on my other channel, Claire Thackeray, you'll know, and this is a long time ago, when I said I had a dream, and it's just come back to me, where I said, remember when I said, I've had a dream last night that it was about Richard III, but I was taken to these places, these vaults all over the world, and I was shown that there is hidden evidence to prove something about Richard III. And I can't remember which video I mentioned it in, and that's just come to me now. So all this evidence has come from all over the world.
I'm not saying that it might not be true. It might very well be true, but it's very difficult to say one way or the other, in my opinion. That the evidence could tell both tales. And if you're a Tudor looking at this, or Tudor, what's the word, sympathiser, you might be able to look at all these documents and go, no, they would have done that. They were faking this. They would have come out with those documents. I think one was a receipt for some weapons, and they've gone, yeah, they would have ordered those weapons in Richard IV's name. Because that's what the narrative they wanted everybody to believe. They would have done that. But also, if it was true, they would have done it. So it's a very difficult one, and the biography that he wrote, or somebody wrote, again, if it was going to be a forgery, somebody would do that and go, here you go, there's my life story. This is me. This is what I've done. There'd be nobody there to back it up, but then again, there's nobody there to dispute it either. So it's a difficult one. They are true of the time, but they would have been forged at the time if they are forgeries. They'd have been complementary. What's the word? What's the word? I'm looking
Consciously.
No, it's a word. It's a C word of the times. I can't remember what the word is. So they would have been of the time. They would have been written in the time. So they'd been forged in the late 1500s, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
They would have forged them there and then. So they would be of the time.
Yeah.
So there's no way you could carbon date them and say they were forged afterwards, because they would have been forged at the time if they were going to forge them.
Because if they were doing that insurrection, they would have been doing it at the time.
If they was going to do a fake insurrection, there'd be, as I said, there'd be quite a lot of fake documents out there, just to carry weight for the insurrection. They won't just say, "Oh well, this is for Walbeck." You know what I mean? Walbeck's getting all these weapons. He's pretending to be Richard IV so we can get crown. You know what I mean? They wouldn't write that in a better, would they? They'd write what they want to do. So,
what is freaky is if it's true, that evidence can just not even disappear. It's not as though it's been found in an attic. All this evidence has actually been found in the correct places, looked after, you know, and yet it's not been. Which I said to you, what else is, and then who's been putting this evidence away? What else
it's
is
just stuff
out there?
I'd say it's just stuff that falls through the cracks of history, though.
What else has fallen through the cracks?
Exactly. There probably is other evidence to prove either way what's going on. What's compelling to me is that at the time, if you're looking at this as an investigator, if we were Vera, we'd have said, what is the motive? Why did he kill those boys? Because he had no motive to kill those boys, because they were deemed
Bastards.
Yeah, they weren't. What's the word? Not bastards.
That's what they call
them.
them.
No, they're called bastards.
Illegitimate.
They were discounted as illegitimate because Richard married. I don't know who he married.
Edward married Elizabeth Woodville.
Yeah, but he married her. But apparently he was betrothed to another, and apparently in those times that's countermount to marriage. So when he married, what's her name again? Sorry,
Elizabeth Woodville.
Elizabeth Woodville. He was actually being a bigamist because he should have married this other woman, and that's how they proved it. They were illegitimate. So in the end, you know, you're the uncle. Why would you kill those kids?
But then why would you send them abroad? I did a video on it, I can't remember.
So let's look at this at the modern time. So William and Kate die, and their 3 kids, which you could Louis, George. So you've got Louis and George, the 2 boys. Yeah. So Harry has to become. Well, he's Richard III. He has to look after these kids.
He would make them bastards. He wouldn't.
Listen,
he'd find any. He'd say he'd slept with.
Well, I'm not having
he'd come out with some right.
It's you that's having to go, Harry, not me. But I'm just saying, Harry would have to look after the throne until the boys came of age. Now, if it turned out that William was already betrothed to another before he married Kate, making all his kids bastards, it would mean Harry would be the heir to the throne.
You'd love that,
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
He would have been the heir to the throne. And in essence, why would he have to kill those kids? He wouldn't have had to do it. Because they're just bastard nephews.
But then why would he send them away to then become under the control of people in the external? That's the weird bit, isn't it?
Well, no, because they've got no crime. Because he is the King of England. He has got he has got the line to the throne. He is the most person in line to the throne, and he may have put them away because he might want to keep them if he didn't have any kids himself, potentially. And it's
Did he have children? Did he have a son? He had a son.
Did he survive?
He didn't, but he did. I think he had the son at the time when he got crowned. I'm sure he did.
I'm going to say, because surely they'd have used his son rather than the 2 bastard sons to try and get the crown back off.
But he did die.
Henry.
Eventually, he did die.
But yeah, I mean, unless they all died at the same battle, I don't know that. But in essence, when Henry married Richard III's niece, yeah. He had to unbastardize the kids, so he had to I can't say it.
Make them illegitimate.
I can't say it.
Legitimate.
Yeah, I can't say it. Legitimize. He had to
Legitimize.
Yeah, that's the word. The sister, and in doing so, did the same to the brothers, which then made, if they were still alive, would have made them a threat to his crown. And apparently he did start to look for them. But why would he look for them if he knew they were already dead? Interesting.
Because I don't think they were dead.
No, I think they did get sent away, for whatever reason. Maybe he was being a good uncle. He didn't want the kids to be grown up as bastards and be treated as such, because a lot of the time they would have been treated. Well. They would have been treated quite unfairly as bastards.
I might have to stop saying that word for YouTube, because you get away with it once or twice, and then you don't.
Fair enough. I can't say the other word. That's the trouble.
What?
Illegitimate.
Illegitimate.
There you go. So, yeah. You've lost my train of thought now, thank you.
Yeah, so they wouldn't be treated unfairly.
So he'll have sent them away, so they wouldn't have been treated unfairly and cruelly, and they could have had a better life, I think, because they would have been treated as such growing up and all that kind of, in the court and all that kind of stuff. They'd have been second-class citizens compared to everybody else. Especially if Richard had his own sons as well, so they would have been heirs. So they'd have been, well, they wouldn't have been anywhere near the throne. So it's interesting. The one interesting thing I heard was that they did ask Queen Elizabeth if they could analyse the bones of the bodies that they found in the Tower of London, but she refused. I don't know why she would. She's not a Tudor. She's got no Tudor blood in her. Well, she might have a little bit. I don't know. Royal houses and all that.
That's interesting as well. But who were those boys? Were they actually genuinely the twins?
Were they boys?
I keep saying the twins in the tower. This is something that I do a lot on the back list.
Yeah, but were the bodies that were found boys? They said...
Oh, yeah.
They seem to infer in the documentary they were of age of the two boys. But again, some of the stuff that I've read on it, and it's like they were just bones. They didn't know if they were young girls, young boys, young men, young women. So I'm wondering how they've managed to get such a specific age of the bones, and they've not dated them. You know what I mean? When were they analysed to get the age? And they've not carbon dated them to get the age of the bones. It just says the analysis...
Who else would they be? That's the thing.
They could have been anybody at the time. They could have been servants, you know, bloody hell. Could be descendants of Fred West. I don't know. You know what I mean? You know, it's people bury bodies everywhere, don't they? It could have been people that just got trapped under there while they were making the castle. Or there's so many explanations. It's untrue. But until they exhume the bones and get them analysed, they will never know, I don't think. Unless Philippa Langley gets more evidence. But I think she obviously feels it's enough. But I don't, personally, I disagree with Mr. Rinder.
It's one of them, is Gary.
I disagree. I don't think there's enough evidence. It is compelling evidence. It definitely is compelling evidence, and it does give you an idea that there could be another story. But to give you the story that they weren't usurpers, I don't know. But would they had two different usurpers coming through? One of them could have been real. But if one of them was real, then he didn't kill either of the boys, if that makes sense. Only one of them needed to be real in the story. One of them could have been a usurper.
Why would they be? Why would they have a usurper though? Why couldn't they have just chosen the lad that survived?
Well, that's what I said. I said when we were watching it, I had the opinion that the first insurrection, the younger of the brothers, would have been still only 13, something like that, when the older one would have been 16, and he wouldn't have been old enough to lead that resurrection.
True.
So they may have got a fake lad to pretend to be the older one to make it so eventually the younger one would take the throne.
Unless something happened to the older one in the tower and they were like, look, this is not a safe space for you. Let's send the other one away, and they've put a fake in for the elder.
I don't know. Yeah, well, the book that I was reading, allegedly historic evidence that the older brother died of some kind of disease, which a lot of kids died in those days, you know what I mean? Not many people lived to the age of 30 or 40, never mind made it past age 10 or 12.
I've just had a vision.
What, go on. Here we go.
What if it was a child of one of either the, what's her name, the auntie, or a connection? The first one.
It could have
And that's where this icky feeling's coming from. So the first one maybe was Plantagenet, but wasn't one of the actual brothers.
Well, it could have been anything. You know, my feeling is, well, the feeling with the book that I read is the first one was fake. But it was the second one that was the real brother. But like I say, it doesn't matter if one of them was real or both of them was real. If at least one of them was real, Richard III didn't kill them both. Well, he could have killed one, but why would he just kill one and not the other? Does that make sense? So, I don't think he's a murderer.
No.
And I think Shakespeare's wrong.
Yeah. Well, again, Shakespeare was manipulated by
Elizabeth I.
the monarch of the time.
Yeah, he was led by Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I was a monarch that everybody wanted her to love them. And they moved heaven and earth to do that. Watch Blackadder the Second. It was very funny, but it's quite historical as well. There's some famous historical figures in that, and Elizabeth I was a tyrant, and she was wishy-washy in the terms of who she favoured and who she didn't. It was a whim of the day almost. And so people just wanted to stay on a good side, and what better way to stay on the good side to make that the person that they actually stole the crown from become a pantomime villain.
Well, the fact that they went to so much work, even all those years afterwards, proved that there's something not right.
There was a lot of work put into making Richard III look a pantomime villain, and you could see in the paintings where they've been touched up to give him like longer fingers and, you know, make him look evil, as it were, than what he actually was. Yeah, it's compelling. It's very interesting. My general feeling was he probably didn't kill those boys, and at least one of them tried to overthrow. Because I think if one of them was fake, I don't think that, like they said in the documentary, they just struggled to put money involved and all those soldiers and everything to bankroll 2 fake rebellions, if that makes sense.
And also as well, did Anne Boleyn, because this tyrant energy keeps carrying on, you know, did Anne Boleyn know the full story? Did the wives of Henry VIII know and that was also a big indicator of why the wives ought to go, because something like that, you can't just bury it, can you? Especially if your wife gets pissed with you. And it's ammunition to... But then if she'd done that, she'd have destroyed her own daughter's chance of becoming queen.
Well, yeah. I don't know. Possibly. Possibly. I mean, I don't know what the dates of the monarchs are, to be honest with you, but one of the documents that wrote that was 50 years after the time, wasn't it? I can't remember who they said who wrote it now. About how Richard III killed his nephews. And that was one of the documents, but it was actually written 50 years after the event, which is well into... I don't know who would have been king then.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, it's interesting.
Queen Elizabeth, wouldn't it?
Possibly.
Probably not, actually.
I don't know my kings and queens. I should do, but
either Mary or Elizabeth. But I think more of this kind of stuff is starting to come out because I think more and more people are starting to look at history through new eyes. And more people are willing to ruffle feathers. I mean, Philippa has ruffled a lot of feathers.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of people that do not like Philippa Langley.
Yeah,
and
but
it's a weird one. It's a weird one because, but then this same antagonism is out there now. We look at Team Kate, Team Meghan. That either side antagonism is still there, and it's there 500 years away.
Yeah, I think the trouble is you know, we saw the King in the Car Park documentary as well, didn't we? And she did seem to go a bit funny if anybody seemed to question her. You know what I mean? So it's like, again, like you're saying, it's either Harry or Meghan. Not Harry or Meghan.
Oh, I tell you what, were you ready for that one when it's like, what is it, Meghan v Harry? Oof, the divorce court.
So I'm saying it's Harry or William. On this one, it's Henry the Seventh, or is it Richard the Third? And she's definitely in the Richard the Third camp. She's like there. She's blinkered in that, and she sees the evidence in that sense, which is worrying. It's not straight down the line.
Yeah, would it have been fairer had they got both sides? There's some well-known historians that are proper Tudorites and got them actually all involved, and maybe another barrister, like they would in a proper court case. Because that's just come to me. If you had a proper court case, you would have yours, they'd have theirs, and it's mash it out. Whereas this one, actually, it's a good point, is that you only had really everyone, apart from a couple of historians that they chucked in and went, get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have enough from the other side, so it's the rewriting history kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, we want to know the truth, not somebody else's version of the truth. And that's what will worry me on that documentary, that they're trying to give you their version of the truth. But is it the real truth? Is it the historical truth? We know history's probably wrong. A lot of it's more than likely wrong, because it's been written by the winners, and they you know, whoever's won the battle, they were brilliant in that battle and they won it fairly, and the other side were idiots and they were hopeless, and that's why they lost the battle. But it wasn't always that way.
It is interesting, that little insight just had, because it does because otherwise the same thing's happening again, but in a different way. And I've always said this, I think, you know, it's like team this, team that. The truth is somewhere in the middle, but it's not that and it's not that, and it seems society wants it to be that or that, but somewhere it's all lost in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, I think there is something lost in the middle there, and which is where it says to me that maybe Richard III didn't kill those lads, and that's where the documentary should have just finished. It's no, we don't think they got killed. We don't think he did that. We're not sure about these two. But like you say, it's all the evidence is on those bones. If they can DNA evidence them or carbon date them or something, I think. But I don't think it'll ever happen. They don't like disturbing bones, especially if they think they're royal, potentially. But they might not be.
So they could have been the princes that got killed, and it was like, well, actually, because, you know, at any point a king can. I mean, look at Henry VIII. You know, you woke up one day, you were Princess Mary. You go to bed that night, and you're the Lady Mary. And
but do you just bury him under the stairs, though?
They buried him anywhere, didn't they?
Yeah, no, but
who else would? Where
you
these
get rid
two?
of the evidence, don't you?
Yeah,
you don't. And like you say, unless you're Fred West, you don't just bury it in your back garden. You know what I mean? And this is, in essence, that's what they did. They buried it under the stairs, and it's like, you just don't know when that's going to get dug up again.
Or did somebody else kill those two boys, not the princes, and place them in the tower like that to be found like that?
Could have well been, yeah. They could have murdered a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old.
They could have taken the princes, or Richard could have got rid of the princes, or taken the princes, or the Tudors could have got rid and then put two bodies there. Because again, we take advantage of the fact we all know what George looks like. But back then you wouldn't. So it could have been that, and that's why it just went woof, because there was all this corruption and.
Well, I don't think in that sense they wouldn't have realised that. I don't know what the time frames were, but say when they disappeared and then the battle, and then Henry VII was king, maybe a year, 2 years. He could have killed two kids and chucked them under the stairs in that time. He wouldn't have known. Nobody would have known. We'll dig them bodies up in a couple of years and we'll find them. You know what I mean? And we'll really show them. You don't know, do you?
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't have known anything about carbon dating back then. They wouldn't have even dreamed that you could date a body from when it was.
Well, not even in Victorian times did they know how to do that, really.
No. So, no, there's plenty of different scenarios that could have happened, but it's all surmising, which we're very good at, aren't we? Like a good surmise.
And it's almost as well, even though you've watched the documentary, there's still unanswered aspects of it.
I think the biggest question mark is, are those bones real? We know they're real.
Yeah.
But
who are they?
But who are they? Who are the bones? Are they the princes or not? I mean, that's definitive for me. Go on, Charles.
Oh.
I know you're watching, Charles.
I think he's got enough on his plate right now to...
It's only a minor operation. My dad's had that.
No, I mean... Well, he's got erratic son, erratic daughter.
What, me?
No, Charles. He's probably got more. He's just had to do something now. He's got a question mark over his grandchildren right now, because that same similar scenario now. And this is the thing.
What about?
We live in modern times, but there is a rumour that Meghan and Harry, those kids are not theirs. Let's bring that in. So we're in modern times where we've got phones and emails and pictures and social media, but we're still in this manipulation energy. Illusion energy. What's truth? What's not?
Tin Hat energy. What I call tin hat.
No, but there's I'm just saying that it's still, this illusion energy is still out there. And is this all just illusion energy? Where there's missing pieces of the jigsaw. It's like if you're doing a jigsaw and you've got pieces missing, you just think, sod it. But this is actually getting missing pieces of the jigsaw and trying to put them.
Well, this is a narrative
trying
again.
To make jigsaw pieces fit. I'll make my own pieces of the jigsaw.
This is history in the making. This is people rewriting history as we see it. And people are already putting Harry and Meghan as the villains of the piece. And they're already saying, oh, well, the kids are illegitimate. You know what I mean? And they're not theirs. And it's like, can we say that? No, we can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We can't say that.
You can't officially say it, but I'm just saying there's question marks out there.
There's question marks over everything.
I'm just
there's question marks whether the world's flat or round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In some people's eyes. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
But I'm saying that in 500 years' time, people will be looking back at our time going, whoa.
Well, they might
this is how it happens.
They might find a copy of The Sun where it says Harry's kids are his. And they'll go, oh, well, they can't have been his. We're in The Sun.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
But what I'm saying is the same problems, similar situations are arising now in the modern time where we have got access and we're still in a blinkered state in some respect. Think about the Tudor times that had nothing like this.
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's fake news, isn't it? We're getting fake news all the time. And the BBC are even having to verify every single article they put out now, or every single piece of information they get in. They're having to verify it to make sure that people aren't making it up. And so that says to me it's a lot of people making stuff up out there, and fake news is rife. So my thing is that do not believe everything you hear in the mass media, or any kind of media, really. Use your own mind and your own decision making on what you feel is right, which is what we've got to try and do on this. But it's a difficult one. But I was shocked at the guy, Judge Rinder, how he came up with his hypothesis or conclusion. He's like, no, it's fine. No, it's like, no, Richard III's a stand-up decent guy. This evidence is crack on.
I think it should have been where you had both sides.
You know, if I had a decent lawyer and I was up for murder, I'd want him to be my judge. Let's put it that way. Because he's a bit woohoo.
Yeah, well, he's telling judge, isn't he, really?
Yeah. Like I say, it was a propaganda video. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Philippa, but you wrote it as a propaganda video for Richard III. Because there weren't enough, like you said, there weren't enough contradictory information or opinion.
And I don't think she's helped herself with that.
No.
I think I enjoyed it, and I had that moment.
It was
like,
interesting.
wow, and it confirmed a lot of what I've already felt. But I think long term, propaganda, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And that's what my worry is. Not that I'm worried about it, I'm going to sleep over it, but that's the concern that we may have moved forward, but we've started another ball rolling.
What got me, what I thought was funny is that right at the beginning they saw a historian who was very much a Richard IIIan, and then Ricardian, yeah.
Richard IIIan.
Richard IIIan. I told you. I get everything wrong. What I'm going to say? You've lost my train of thought again now.
Yeah.
Yeah. She apparently she seemed very Ricardian at the start of the documentary, and then near the end they said, right, I'm going to go see an impartial historian to look at this evidence, and they went to her, and it's like, hold on a minute, she's about as impartial as a chocolate egg. You know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah,
what?
it's
that wasn't right. That wasn't right. She wasn't an impartial historian. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She's probably a very, very intelligent woman, but I don't think she was impartial in that situation. Because she was so into the Richard III stuff right at the beginning and wanting to believe it all. And I think, yeah, there were a Tudor historian, and he were only in it for a few minutes. Yeah. He should have been in it all the way through. And he should have gone, whoa, hold on a minute. Yeah, come on. Yeah, they would have done this. You know what I mean? And but they don't want that. They don't want you to dispute what they're coming up with. They don't want to give you another line of inquiry. But when you're... Oh, go on.
Go on, just come to me. Sorry, apologies for cutting you off.
You cut me right out. Cut me right through.
What was I going to say? The problem is that actually both sides are still manipulating 500 years on, Plantagenet and Tudor. That both families, there's some awful stories about the Plantagenets, there's some awful stories about the Tudors. Both families were ruthless for that throne, and it's almost like it's not their descendants as in their fan bases, and now taking on their ruthlessness. And we've still got this Plantagenet Wars of the Roses. Oh, I'm enjoying this debate. Wars of the Roses. But it's now the historians that have taken on the horse, the shield, and they're now boom.
They're not fighting with swords. They're fighting with pens and paper and evidence, and you know what I mean, and historical records and stuff like that. But yeah. And it's all theory and conjecture, unfortunately for my... Yeah. There's too much theory and conjecture in that documentary. I thought it was going to be better than that. I thought it was going to give us more of a... Nah. I think that one of the defining things was all the evidence that they were getting was from around the times that the insurrections were being planned or when they were being carried out. And that evidence would have been there then. Because they would have been making up evidence then to prove their point that this guy was real. What we wanted was the evidence while these lads were still growing up. What happened in these intervening years?
Yeah, they've not got it, have they?
Where's this evidence?
It just springs up at the time of a rebellion, it is kind of convenient. It just springs up.
There would have been a lot of evidence out there to say that this is happening and we're following this king.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't the king, even though we're fake, that evidence would have been being fake to convince all the people involved. Yes, some of the people wouldn't need convincing; they just wanted money to fight. But a lot of the big players would have wanted proper convincing that these guys were real. So a lot of stuff would have been thrown about, like the stuff that was found in this documentary, which would have been written at the time. So it all fits to make it fake and them to be usurpers and not the real princes. But I think the big thing for me was that apparently Richard IV, who would have been if he ever became king, apparently had some kind of facial disfigurement or birthmark which made him recognisable, and apparently one of the pieces of evidence was Who would it have been? Would have been a cousin? The Duke of Burgundy? No, that's not about right, is it? What was it? The German? He was a nephew to...
Oh, I don't know. The Maximilian thing.
Maximilian, that's the guy. He was the bankroll, wasn't he? And he was convinced, the evidence and written conviction when he met the prince, that he saw him and he saw these birth defects and he knew that that lad had them when he was younger. Now, fair enough, that sounds really good. God, it's definitely him because he's got a big bloody birthmark like bloody Mikhail Gorbachev, you know what I mean, on him. So it's unrecognisable. Mikhail Gorbachev, it would be him. You can't not, you know what I mean? You recognise him, just recognise him because of the birthmark on his noggin. But they could have made that up as well. And they could have just got a lad with a birthmark on his face and gone, yeah, he always had this birthmark, and everybody did he? I don't remember, but we could have done. We never met him, you know what I mean? Now, if there'd been some portraits of the time, of the lad with birthmark on his face that were done when he was 12, then that would have had a bit more of a impact. But again, that evidence wasn't found or shown in this documentary. Again, it was all around the times of the two insurrections, which to me speaks that it might not have been real evidence. It might have been faked evidence for the insurrection.
Faked evidence, but of the time.
Yeah, no, it was. It's real. It's real of the date. It was all done at the time. You know what I mean? It's like us faking your returns.
Yeah.
In 20 years' time, they'll go, well, she wrote them at the time, but they're still fake. You know what I mean? They're still not right. She don't fake her returns, by the way. We get his accountant to do that. Only joking. No, but yeah. So you would fake them at the time to prove that your man was the real man and was the rightful king. So that's where it didn't really stack up, the documentary, and I was hoping it was going to stack up a bit more, and it's not convinced me. I've got to say. I wanted it to convince me. I wanted Richard to be innocent of these murders, but it's not fully convinced me.
I think again it's because it's been done in such an unbalanced way, and a lot of people have said, I mean, for although I like Philippa, she gets very intense with it all. And that group, I mean, the Tudor side get very intense, and there's a real intensity. You know, like that Matt Lewis. He can. I used to follow him, and he got so like intense with it all, and it was like, whoa, slow it down, cool it. But then I think historians do, because a lot of these historians build their careers on narratives.
What they believe, how they believe,
and it can take a lot to say, I got that wrong actually. But I actually admire people that say, because it just makes you human. Everyone can get things wrong.
Of course they can, and you know, to think that you're wrong. Unfortunately, with Philippa Langley, she was dead on with the car park and everything and where he was buried. So.
There is also rumours that other people were pushed out of that. There's a lot of people come forward, and it's been discussed on Claire Thackeray, hasn't it, in the comment section, that a lot of people have come forward and said it wasn't just Philippa. There was other people involved, and it just became pushed that out, and I'm the one that, and that's the kind of vibe I get, and it's which is concerning because it's.
But also, we watched the film, didn't we? And one in the film that it made, because that was Philippa Langley's kind of. She was involved with the film, wasn't she? And
that's where the fallouts come from.
No, but she says she got pushed out by the university, didn't she?
Well, the university is saying they got pushed out. I think it was one of the professors or something. The big chunky fella.
Yeah.
Apparently, she's blaming him. He's blaming her.
He said. She said.
But yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it?
Well, in the film, they seem to take more credit for what they actually did, but I don't know. Interesting. Again, history. The film was history being written by the person who won, and she won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She was the hero in the film, and the film was written to her narrative. Was that narrative true? I don't know. That the University of Leicester are saying no. Not all this is true. This isn't what happened. So, Philippa, you wrote your own history in your own film. So you did what the Tudors did to Richard III.
Yeah.
And this is all about history and how history works. History is written by the winners, and you won that.
Intense, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's true.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's definitely true.
And that's not going to heal those wounds, is it? It's just going to fire up other people.
So I think a bit more even keel, Philippa, next time. Let's just get it nice and even. I think you're probably right. I'd like to think you're right, but I think you need an even keel documentary and get some other opinions that you might not like. You know what I mean? Get some opinions you might not like.
Yeah.
Like mine.
Yeah. You can deal with when this video goes out and out. What comes in?
I'll deal with Philippa Langley.
Yet?
I'll deal with Philippa. Philippa #69242259.
Yeah.
In the comments.
It is a.
No, but yeah, I'm not having a go at her, but I'm having a bit of a laugh. But I do, like we've said, I think it could have been a bit more of an even documentary. I think they tried to make it sound like it is, having Judge Rinder there.
But he's a television judge. You've seen him on Judge Rinder. And I think he's good at what he does, but I think the concerning thing is, I think it'd have been fair had it been two barristers, Tudor, Plantagenet, and I think that would have made it more... And they could have both sides grounded and been balanced. And actually I think the worrying thing is with history, people are now saying, yes, that's fact. When in actual fact, even present day cases that are happening now, judges are struggling to say that's fact. And that's the concerning thing, rather than saying, well, the evidence, points to that, and from this, that points to that, and still leaving it open to say, no, well, you're right. That's scary, isn't that?
It is, yeah, well, I know I won't say it.
Go on.
Well, look at Donald Trump. He's in court at the minute, isn't he? You know what I mean? Is that true? Is that not true? Nobody knows the narrative, do they? You know what I mean? That's the thing.
I have to teach you about the world of YouTube, don't I?
What? I'm just saying. I did say. I said I shouldn't say it. I did say that, didn't I? That I don't think I should say this. And Claire said, "Just say it. Just say it." And so I did. And watch the news. And he has been on trial. Well, no, I think it's a libel case. But again, I'm just using it as an example, really. That it's he said, she said a lot of the time.
You can speak to both sides. People that absolutely adore him, and if you listen, you can come and go, okay. And then you go and have a conversation with someone that absolutely hates him. You can go, It's somewhere in the middle, and that's not being that's not saying I'm impartial and just sit on the fence, but it's the extremes, isn't it?
I don't think it's somewhere in the middle.
No, but it's the extremes of both sides, and we're still seeing the extremes of both sides. When people are looking at history, it's either Richard's a villain or he's an innocent victim.
I think a lot of it can be anywhere in that. So this historian may be perfectly right. That historian may be perfectly right. A lot of the time it is probably somewhere in the middle. But Philippa Langley could be bang on this. But I think it would have helped. It might not have helped the narrative of the documentary to have somebody going all around going, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, all the way through. But it might have helped a little bit to just to wind the neck in a bit. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, it was all a bit woo. It's amazing.
It does get like that round her though, doesn't it? We know there's past life issues there.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Worth a watch if you want to watch it. What's it called? The Two Princes in the Tower.
Yeah.
The New Evidence. Something like that.
New Evidence. Well, it is new evidence, isn't it?
It's evidence. It's new-ish. But it's definitely new. They've found it, haven't they? So, whether it tells a tale, I don't know.
I wonder if the opposite side come back and do it'd be interesting to actually, anybody can help us on this. Who would be the counter historians of this? I'd know like Matt Lewis.
It'd be a Tudor story. The guy,
Yeah, because it'd be
on the
interesting to
documentary.
see what they now say. Because
Well, I just before we started this, I had a quick look through, and some of the people commentating on it was similar opinion to me, that it was a bit it was a bit biased as a piece of work, unfortunately. And it should have been a bit more even, and the evidence can be seen as compelling, but it can also be seen as, well, that's evidence that they faked it as well. I think somebody did mention that the one big piece of evidence that didn't really go into was the narrative of his life of Richard IV. Would have been. It wasn't Richard IV. It would have been Richard IV if he got crowned. What's interesting to me is, on the documentary, there was Edward, wasn't there? And he actually went through a ceremony to be crowned king before they invaded England. They didn't do that for the other one. Wonder why they needed to do it for one and not the other. Does that make one more real than the other? Did they have to legitimise the first one to crown him because they knew he was fake? Or did they not want to legitimise the second one because they knew he was fake and they didn't want to go in front of God and crown him as a king? Interesting.
Yeah.
That just came to me.
yeah,
That they had two insurrections, allegedly both brothers, but one of them was crowned king in Dublin Cathedral, but there was no mention of Richard being crowned before he went to battle. That's very interesting. Again, I think they were concentrating a bit too much on the evidence and whether it was authentic for the time than whether it was actually authentic, if that makes sense.
yes,
You know what I mean? Oh yeah, it's definitely real. It were definitely wrote in the time.
yeah.
Okay, well, a fake evidence would have been wrote in the time. We're not talking forgeries that were done in 1990. You know what I mean? That's that Philippa Langley just wrote in a backyard. You know what I mean? To
Just
prove
because
her
they
point.
were written at that time
Yeah.
doesn't mean to say they were true.
No, it could prove that their narrative is true, as it were. But that's what they were saying about the what they've called a witness. Judge Rinder kept calling a witness statement, and there was no name on the document to say it was a witness statement. For somebody with his training to call that a witness statement is just absurd.
Yeah.
Because it should have been signed, dated by the person who wrote it,
Yeah.
and authenticated as that person. And there's nothing on that, and they didn't even try to authenticate who wrote it. That all they did is try to authenticate that it was written around the time it should have been written, if it was real. If that makes sense. And that document, if it was real and it was written by Richard IV, that would have been a cracking document.
It was signed, wasn't it?
No,
It was.
no. It wasn't signed, that document.
It was.
No, one of the other ones was signed.
Right.
That was the one with the seals.
Yeah.
That was signed.
Yeah.
The German one, the one they found in Germany. But the letter was not signed, as far as I can remember, and there was no way to prove. Well, if it was signed, it was signed Richard of England. You know what I mean? And it's like, there might have been a lot of Richards of England back then. You know what I mean? There was no Richard of England authenticated by the Pope. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Shame on you, Judge Rinder. It weren't a witness statement. And that's where I think I'm coming from, is that it was a bit biased, this documentary. And Judge Rinder was supposed to be bring the counterbalance to the documentary, and I don't think he did. I don't think he did the job well enough.
Yeah. Can I just bring another modern day example in?
Go on.
This modern day example, I'm not saying whether it's true or whether it's not, but in 500 years' time, when another historian that is mad about Diana, wanting to find out about her ending, finds the Judge Ringer of the day, and they go through the letters, and they find, this is just an example of what we're saying, and they find that letter that she wrote to her butler. Yes, it was written by Diana. Yes, it was of its time. And yes, the outcome that she kind of predicted came about, but does it still mean to say that it's fact? That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but they could lose all. They could lose.
Just because it's of the time, it's by the person, it doesn't mean to say it's fact.
No, and also they could lose all those documents and just find one document which was written by Muhammad Al Fayed, saying that it was all the crown and they did it, and you know what I mean. And people believe in that as the real story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what Philippa Langley's doing. She's just picking random pieces of history and putting her narrative to it. If you wanted to say that Diana was murdered, what?
You've got to be careful, boss.
What? I'm talking.
I know, but
hypothetically.
there's rules on YouTube.
What do you mean?
You just got to. That's why we nod and we wink at certain things. We have code words. We just the ending of Diana. We just got to be careful. You just like the ending of Diana, that kind of thing, because you can. It's like it's just.
Now I've really lost my train of thought.
Yeah, if you're looking at the ending of Diana,
and you found some evidence that was written by somebody who thought that you know it wasn't an accident, then you might think that was true. You know what I mean? And that was the only evidence you found, and you'd say, oh well, that was true then, because that's the evidence. It's there. You know what I mean?
But the difference is they've got this piece of evidence from Mr. X, and then they've got that piece of evidence. Oh, but we found that from the official offices of the time. That's your most strongest piece of evidence.
Of course it is, yeah.
It's not from Mr. X. It's that, and that's the thing with evidence, isn't it? That Mr. X may be right, but the evidence that stands up in court would probably be that one from the official office of the time. Number 5.
You mentioned the words. You should not meant to mention them words on YouTube.
Five. So you don't know about that? We spell it. Oh, my channel got a spell as well.
How can you spell an acronym?
No, but like if I was doing that, you say A5. Do I? Certain words we spell.
Fair enough.
Bless you, you'll get used to it.
I'm just not. I'll try not to be controversial in the future, right?
Bless you. But yeah, it's an interesting because we're looking at the past, going but in 500 years' time, there'll be still people looking at us, and our history is just as fragile.
Every history is fragile.
It's very fragile. There's so many questions and unanswered questions and narratives. In fact, even though we live in the modern age, I think people looking back on this age, it will be even more confusing. Because I think there is too much communication and it's just a mess.
Well, it'll be just hidden in barrage of information. It'll be information overload, emails.
I mean, emails we can just delete now, and they kept their letters and documents and all of that.
Can we just delete them, or are they kept?
Oh, God.
We could delete as WhatsApp messages, can't we? Government officials. Apparently, that's what they did during the COVID. The COVID. I saw on the news that they were told to delete all their WhatsApp messages every day.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at that's another example, isn't it? It's.
And that was in the what you call it, the investigation. What's it called? That they're doing. But yeah, this stuff like this happens all the time. Stuff gets deleted. Stuff gets rewritten. And it's probably happening right now, somewhere in the world. Unfortunately, and it might be coming to a news program somewhere. You just don't know, do you? That's the problem. And you know, it's very difficult to watch the news and stuff nowadays. And and read history books and things, because you just don't know what's in that person's mind when they wrote it.
Their agenda, their mental health, were they financially desperate? Were they power mad, vengeful? It's an interesting, and I've always, when people have talked like I'm talking, I thought, oh, shut up, I just feel that they've done it, but actually it's true. You've got to have these questions, otherwise people can get accused or vindicated, and they shouldn't be.
It's
hard. It's hard thing. There's no easy answer for it.
If somebody gives you overwhelming evidence, then you're going to believe it, even though all that overwhelming evidence could potentially be made up. You know what I mean? If somebody tells you a story and goes, "Oh well, I did this, that, and other yesterday," you'll generally believe them. You know what I mean? But,
so rounding it up,
we got nowhere.
Rounding up, I think it was interesting, and I think, but I think it also as well depend if you watch that and think, yeah, that's answered it for me. Switch it off and get on with your day. But has it answered, or has it actually left more avenues open for?
I think it's going to be the conclusion of this is you've got to be careful of these kind of documentaries on the television. Oh God, I'm going to go there as well, aren't I?
What?
Well, there was a Michael Jackson documentary, wasn't there? And again, that left more questions than answers, didn't it?
No,
you know what I mean? I'm not going ins and outs of it, but it left more questions than answers.
Well, it is another example
of either fantastic journalism or terrible journalism. You know what I mean? And there's so many examples of it out there. Oh God!
Oh, you're gonna do it? Just leave it.
Well, the Diane interview again.
Yeah.
That was.
She was shown fake evidence.
She was lured into that interview by fake evidence, and so she went in angry into that interview.
And went.
Yeah, she went into that interview angry. Yeah, I'm not going to go there. But yeah, there's so many people that have gone in front of the TV cameras, haven't they?
Yeah.
And some have done better than others, haven't they, Miss Andrew? I'm sweating here, sorry. Right, yes.
It's interesting. It's just examples of
I'm
where
being
we're
stupid now.
where we are today, and and how it does make you think.
Yeah, we've got to be careful.
The truth is, the only people that really know are those. I always call them twins, and they know they're not. And I have some theories on that because of Claire Thackeray page. Are those boys in the tower and Richard? And possibly Richard, Henry VII.
Maybe.
No matter how much of a historian you are, how much of a researcher you are, how much of a psychic you are, you really can't get that knowledge unless you are. And that's with anything, isn't it?
Maybe we need to make a trip to the Tower of London. Maybe another vlog.
He's talking about it. He's dangling something in front of me.
And we maybe have to have a look around and see what people feel.
Do you want us to go to the Tower of London? I've locked Gary up in the tower.
Yeah, I might get locked up in the tower if I keep on
Your
talking.
channel might, if you carry on like this. But yeah, the only people that really know are the people that are involved.
Yeah, Richard III knows.
Illusionary.
Richard III knows, or would have known, or would he?
Would he?
Some people may have done it for him.
Yeah, there was a lot of that as well. Kings, people think kings have all the power, and actually they don't. History's also proven that.
They may have thought they were doing
Thomas
him a
Cromwell.
favour. They may have been thought they were doing him a favour, and he may have been told that they've been shepherded off somewhere, and actually they buried him under the stairs. You know what I mean? You just don't know. You don't know. And so what? I can't remember what the guy's name was who wrote the history 50 years later. What he said may have been true. The two guys that killed them may have been the guys that killed them, but they did it not on Richard's orders, but thinking that Richard might like it happening.
Well, you look at Thomas Cromwell and Anne Boleyn. It's a lot of the problem comes from those around them rather than the actual them. And it still happens today. Those around them have more power in some cases than them. You see how I did that then? I just got a message across.
Straight over my head.
No, the people around those people back then and now have more power than you think.
Yeah.
And
the grey suits, as it were, that they're called sometimes.
Yeah. And it was back then as well, so yes, somebody could make a decision and now the king or the monarch of the day has no idea.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of that going on. It was all power behind the throne.
Yeah. Stuff happened behind the scenes that the monarchs probably knew nothing about. I don't know. Was this what happened? I don't know. I don't think we'll probably ever fully know the answer.
I don't think we will, because I think there's too many agendas in history. There's too many agendas. People have got too much invested in their own narrative, and I think the healthy historians that want to come and actually look at all the evidence and they're impartial, those historians are few and far between.
The thing is, it don't sell books.
No, it doesn't.
Being impartial doesn't sell books. So you want to be either there or there. You want to be telling your narrative that's different to everybody else's, because that'll sell your book. Have you got a book coming out, Philippa?
She actually has. She actually has, hasn't she? This is a book. This is a book. She's made it into a book. I'm sure she has.
Right.
Anyway.
Fair enough. Sorry, Philippa. We're only joking. But yeah, get a studio historian involved next time. I think that would have been...
On a sensible note, balance, and that's what I think.
Yeah, balance, yeah.
The problem is it's all too way out of balance for my liking.
Yeah, a lot of these documentaries nowadays are completely unbalanced, and they're looking at one side of the narrative and not both. And you look at any kind of legal proceedings, and Judge Rinderson has said this: you've got to look at all the story. You've got to look at all avenues of investigation, and they were just concentrating on their blinkered vision of what they thought was happening. And they weren't looking at any other narratives that they were fake blokes. You know what I mean? Did they look for birth certificates for these two fake names? You know what I mean? Whether they'd have birth certificates back then, I don't know. But they must have had some kind of records. But I don't know. But there's all those kind of things. So yeah, even keel, balance, I think. I think this is the word of everything. Everything you read on the telly, or in the news, in the newspaper, on the internet. You've got to take it with a pinch of salt and really consider it and get all the key points before you make your decision.
Otherwise, what happens is it just gets laughed out of court, so to speak. The saying, it just gets laughed out of. You've got to be so careful with stuff.
Yeah, but the defence,
and you actually can cause more damage than actually answering, because you can leave it where he still becomes a laughing stock with the third person. Oh God, not her again.
Well, the defence would be that why did you not look at this avenue? Why did you not look at this person? Oh, we didn't think of that. No, you did. You did think of that. You were concentrating on my client. You know what I mean? And they'll make it all about, you know, unbalancedness and fakeness, and you're blaming them when. So yeah.
Yes, interesting.
It is.
So what do you think? Put it in the comments section. I think it's an interesting subject.
Oh, it's definitely. There's so many ways you can look at it. I think definitely, it's a very interesting subject. Whether we'd ever get to the bottom of it.
We should call ourselves the Armchair Historical Detectives.
Armchair.
A new playlist on here. The Armchair Historical Detectives. So in the comments section, do me a favour and write down any historical issues out there, and we'll read it, or we'll watch it, or research it online, and we'll come forward with our own perspective.
Oh, God.
The historical armchair
I think everybody wants to
detectives.
hear my perspective.
Anyway, before we go, just a quick reminder. 1st of February, my book club starts, and the first book we're reading is Affinity by Sarah Waters. Okay? And we've got February to read it, and then the last week of February, I will do a video where I talk about it, and any insights you've got, if you email me to the email address beneath this video, short paragraph, I'll read them out and share them, and we can talk about it in the comment section. But the first book is Sarah Waters' Affinity, and that's for February. I'll put it below in the description box, and I'll put the video about the book club in the description box below.
And my music club.
Yeah.
So
That's an adventure for you so far, isn't it, Gary?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
You've just been listening to your music, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
It's been a very big adventure. God, we'll do a video on that. But yeah, keep listening to the music. So it was what? The Supremes, Tammy Wynette, Bob Dylan, I forgot them now, Jerry and the Pacemakers, and the Kinks. So keep listening. We'll do a video. If you want to put any comments to the music video, if you want to do it into either the music video, just to keep it separate videos that we've done, whether you want to put that in the comments, the two music video,
What?
my music video, the music club video, just so people can get there quickly, and just put your comments in there for how you're getting on with the music and what you're enjoying, what you're maybe not enjoying.
We'll do a video where we sum it up as well.
Yeah, and maybe read some of your comments out. And we'll sum up how we got on.
And we'll do the quiz soon as well.
Oh, the quiz is going to be next week, I think.
Yeah.
Before the end of the month.
We'll think of something else we can natter about.
Yeah, in the meantime.
Let us know in the comments if you'd like us, what other subjects you'd like us to natter about.
Yep.
And thank you for watching.
Yep, thank you.
I'm going to go make a cup of chamomile tea and read. We'll upload this video as well. Thank you for watching. Love to all. If you get to the end of this video and you want to leave a comment, then leave us 2 crowns in the comment section for 2 possible kings.
Either that or zip it, Gary. Keep it close.
Oh yeah, zip it.
Numb it down,
zip
Gary.
It,
numb it
zip
down.
it.
Numb
Do
it
it
down a
zip
bit.
it.
Numb it down a bit, Gary. We don't want you getting
will
kicked
learn.
off.
You will
we don't
learn.
want you getting kicked off, Gary.
Be careful what you say. Something that
It just comes in there and I say it.
Yeah. You'll get used to it. And it's sad that we live in a world like that, but on the other hand, it's... Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
So long, everyone.